Someone is playing dirty against you right now. You might not have a name for it yet, but you feel it. It's the colleague rerouting credit in meetings, the friend whose loyalty shifts the moment someone more useful appears, or the family member quietly making you the villain in stories you weren't even part of. Your instinct is to confront them, explain your side, or match their energy. That instinct is exactly what they are counting on. When someone fights dirty, the worst response is to fight clean, but the second worst is to fight dirty back. There is a third path, a colder, older path used by the greatest strategists in history to bury their enemies without ever raising their voice. Today, we are breaking down the 7 rules of this third path that will help you win the game they think they're playing alone. Rule 1. Never fight on the ground they chose. Historically, many powerful forces have been defeated not by a better army, but by a strategist who simply refused to show up to the battle. They needed a clean, decisive fight on open ground where their strengths could shine, but their opponents stayed in the shadows, harassing supply lines and denying them the battle they needed. The application: the person playing dirty has already chosen the ground, the group chat where they reframe events, the dinner where they perform their version of the truth, or the professional setting where they know you're too professional to defend yourself. They pick the venue, the witnesses, and the rules. Refuse it. You don't have to win the argument they staged. When you stop showing up to their curated battle, their carefully arranged stage starts to look like one person performing alone. Rule 2. The first attack is a confession. Most people react to an attack by retreating or retaliating, but both are just emotional responses. A strategist sees an attack as the most valuable asset. When someone makes a dirty move, they are publishing their entire psychology for free. They are showing you what they consider a winning strategy, who their allies are, and what they believe your weakness to be. Throughout history, the most effective leaders didn't use their networks to fight, they used them to record. They mapped their enemies' financial dependencies and tolerance for risk while the enemy still thought they were the predator. When someone plays dirty, do not react. Record. What did they assume you'd do? What does the move tell you about their relationship with the truth? Read the weapon while you treat the wound. Rule 3. Strike where their power actually lies. Most counterattacks fail because they aim at the leaves, the visible behavior, the rumor, or the specific comment. But every dirty player is leverage. They aren't operating on their own strength. They have an invisible structure beneath them, a relationship with one specific authority figure who hasn't looked too closely, or a reputation in one specific room they are protecting. Every tower has one foundation stone. This isn't about destruction, it's about understanding that their confidence is borrowed. You don't need to whisper or scheme. You simply make the truth visible to that one foundation stone, the manager, the elder, or the patron, without theater or bitterness. Most foundations cannot tolerate that data, and the tower begins to lean without you ever firing a shot. Rule 4. Force them on the record. A dirty player's greatest asset is plausible deniability. Their model depends on being able to say, "I never said that," or claiming your interpretation was wrong. They thrive in the space where everything can be reframed. You take that space away by getting them in writing or in front of witnesses. History shows that when people are forced to commit to a position publicly, they can no longer revise reality in real time. If the ground shifts, they are stuck with their own words. Never ask a dirty player to be honest. Only ask them to be specific. Specificity is a trap. Once they are on the record, you do nothing. You let it sit. Their next dirty move will eventually contradict their own words, and that contradiction becomes the most devastating evidence against them. Rule 5. Mirror perfected. Make the technique visible. A manipulation only works in the dark. Once a technique has been named clearly and calmly in front of people whose perception matters, it can no longer be used. Think of it as turning the lights on. If there is a whisper campaign, you don't strike back, you simply describe the pattern of a whisper campaign factually and without bitterness. When you name the strategy, the witnesses now have a frame. If the dirty player continues, they do so at the cost of confirming your frame. You aren't winning a fight. You are exposing the architecture of the attack. This forces the dirty player to either abandon the technique or be seen using it. Rule 6. Price every move in invisible currency. A common mistake is thinking that non-retaliation means the enemy gets a free pass. If there is no cost, the dirty player learns that aggression against you is profitable. Pricing is not retaliation. Retaliation is loud and emotional. Pricing is quiet, structural, and asymmetrical. Pricing means that every move they make results in a consequence: lost access, lost information, or increased scrutiny. It's delivered like gravity, not anger. Throughout history, the most patient strategists didn't denounce their enemies. They simply made the alternative to them expensive. When their wins against you fail to produce the territory they expected, and their own position degrades because they've lost your goodwill and collaboration, they will eventually course correct on their own. Rule 7. Outlive them, the master rule. Dirty players operate at a high, metabolic cost. Every lie they tell and every alliance they manipulate requires constant maintenance and energy. They are leveraged in ways you are not. Your job is not to destroy them, but to remain structurally intact while they exhaust themselves. Historically, the winners weren't always the best fighters. They were the ones who could take every slight and emotion without protest, observing and building while their rivals burned through their focus and health. Time is the most patient executioner. If you stay productive, keep your reputation intact, and refuse to become bitter or reactive, the dirty player will eventually surface inconsistencies to the wrong audience. By the time they exhaust themselves, you are still standing, bigger, better resourced, and unmangled. The moment you stop reacting, the dirty player shrinks to their actual size, which was always small. Strategy isn't just about winning a conflict. It's about realizing that their only power was your participation in the ground they prepared. When you stop playing their game, you start winning yours.